Okay, I'm back. It's been 2 years, so I've been away for a while, but I'm back. Got the Halloween bug again, and I'm ready to go. So let's dive right into what I want to talk about today, which is making a new batch of paper clay. Uh, this is improved over the prior version that I had. It's much smoother texture, almost like real clay. And I think you can almost do modeling with this. It's actually that good. Get a very smooth texture, as I said. And so let's get right into it, and I'll show you how to make it. Need just 6 ingredients. A cup of blown-in insulation that I like to use, and you saw my last paper clay recipe. A cup of all-purpose flour, cheapest you can find. A cup of cornstarch, that's your secret ingredient. A cup of glue, I use my homemade glue, but Elmer's is fine. And a cup of joint compound. And of course, linseed oil to give it that clay type texture. You put the blown-in insulation into the blender. I'm using a high-speed blender, but you can use a regular blender if that's what you've got. I like the high-speed blender though because I think it actually provides a finer mash, and since we're going for that really smooth texture, I think that does help out a lot in the end. Add water to the blender, and then you're gonna mix it up. And then what you're left with after you mix it for a couple of minutes is a very wet, papery pulp. Get yourself a bowl, and on the bowl you're gonna put a strainer. And you take that wet pulp, the paper pulp, and you're going to pour it into the strainer to drain off almost all of that water. You don't want the pulp to be dry and crumbly. I've seen some recipes where they actually go for that. I prefer the pulp to be a little moist though. Again, not dripping wet. I do squeeze out the water here, as you see, and try and get a bunch of it out. But you don't want it dripping, and I don't like mine crumbly either. Now I take the pulp and I put it into a pastry blender. This is a food processor, and I have the plastic uh, dough blade in there. And now you add all your ingredients on top of the pulp. Here I'm adding the flour, and then the cornstarch, and then the joint compound goes in there as well. And then my homemade glue. Again, you can use Elmer's, but I like the glue. My homemade stuff works well. I can provide a link to that in case you're interested in it. And then 3 tablespoons, carefully measured, of linseed oil. Put it all together and then blend it up. I blend it for a good 5 minutes, though I've shortened the time here. And as you can see, it's getting there, but it's not quite yet. This is kind of like, it's still too fibrous. Kind of like the texture that I had previously in my first version of the paper clay. And but we can do better. So what you can do is you add more flour to the pulp. And you go anywhere from 3/4 to another cup of flour. So up to 2 cups of flour you're going to have in the mix by the end. But you add a little bit in at a time, and just to check on the consistency and texture of the clay that you're making. Here I've added a little bit more again, and mix it up. And again, I'm mixing for a good couple of minutes each time. Um, and then here I put the last of the flour in, so there's a full cup in there, and I mixed it for 5 minutes. And then what you can see is it's starting to blend. It's almost like you're mixing a dough in there, and like you're making some kind of cake or bread or something like that. And so now you've got this clay, and you got to make really fine detail with this. It holds its shape really well, and you can make it thin if you need to, or thicker. Um, but there's not that same fibrous texture to it that you had the last time, and it feels like clay. And It's like this. It's in like an air dry clay. And I like to store it in a plastic Ziploc bag, and I put it in the refrigerator, and it keeps for a real long time, weeks. Uh, you don't have to put it in the refrigerator. I like to, and like to minimize the chance of mold developing, and I think keeping it cold helps that, or slows down the process anyway. But there you've got it. You got a nice package of clay to use. And here I've used the clay on a milk jug skull. I subsequently corpsed it, but it was easy to spread out over the top of the plastic. It's adhered, no problems at all. And there it is. That's the paper clay version 2.0. It's so much better, I think, than the other one. It holds for a long time in the refrigerator, so you can store it for a while. It's cold, so you could take it out, maybe work it in your hands a little bit to warm it up and make it even more pliable. But you can smooth that out, and it's a great new clay. Siskel and Ebert give it 2 thumbs up.